What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some very entertaining battles in the Ultra League submitted to the channel by Mario Plumber 014, who as always is running a triple XXL team with the newly released Indeedee, which you've probably already forgotten about since it has a very underwhelming moveset. But this trainer has powered up all the way to level 50.5, which is a crazy investment. They did mention that they are hoping this Pokemon does get a move update next season, or at least sometime soon. But then of course you've got Dondozo, one of the biggest Pokemon in the game, and as an XXL this thing has literally zero respect for personal space because it is basically touching the opposing Pokemon during battle, and it's quite hilarious to see. And then finally we got Regidrago, definitely the most usable Pokemon on this team, and also looks insanely big on screen as an XXL. Now before we get into the question of the day, I want to say a massive thank you for the support during last night's live stream. I'm pretty sure I had the most gifted memberships that I've ever received during a single live stream. So if you are now a channel member and you weren't really sure why, it's due to some of my very generous subscribers, including the Zippiest, Old Schooler, and Volley Harmon. Now also shout out to Karen Sharma and DC2607 for their donations, also very generous from both of you. And also the two G Fuel New Era giveaway winners were announced on stream, and Veal, or Val, I'm not really sure how to pronounce your name, was the first winner, and actually the Zippiest was the second winner. So congratulations to both of you. I have emailed you both, and you should get emails from the G Fuel team very soon to exchange details and then get those tubs sent out to you. But anyways, with that being said, let's now get into the question of the day. Which Pokemon that has released in the past few months would you like to see get a new move update / buff next season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Indeedee into Feraligatr. So this isn't really a great matchup on paper, however we do have access to Energy Ball. Unfortunately though, Extra Sensory, one of the worst fast moves in the game. I guess it's not quite as bad as stuff like Zen Headbutt, but it is quite bad. But do they know about the grass type coverage? We are going straight for it here. Energy Ball is not respected, it does big damage, and now in comes Dondozo. You can see we're basically kissing the Feraligatr there. We are so close. They come in with a second water type Pokemon, which is not ideal since we do have to full send an Outrage to deal any neutral damage in this matchup. But the opponent gonna already outpace us to back-to-back Night Slashes. Dondozo fairly bulky though, so we will tank those. And now at this point we are gonna full send the Outrage. Outrage coming through here. Outrage is unfortunately shielded by the opponent, so we swap. We catch the next charge move onto Regidrago. Regidrago definitely giving the opponent a lot more personal space, but also looking absolutely massive and menacing on the screen. We're gonna no shield once again, just gonna be another Night Slash there, and at this point we are gonna overfarm ever so slightly and fire off the Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy gets the KO there, and the opponent's gonna come in with their final Pokemon, a Skeledirge. So at this point they are probably gonna shield here, so we're actually gonna bait with a Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe costing more energy this season than the Dragon Energy, but it does grab that final shield. So at this point we're happy to let Torch Song go through. We're actually now gonna swap back into Indeedee just to force the opponent to throw some energy, and it looks like we're going to try and 2-shield flex in this opening battle. Of course they are now double boosted, but Dondozo doesn't really care. We're going to go and fire off the Liquidation. Liquidation will certainly be enough damage to take out the Skeledirge, and now we can Water Gun, farm down for Alligator, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we're going to see Indeedee into a Venusaur. So this should be a good matchup based on typings. However, Extra Sensories, they don't really deal that much damage. They don't generate energy that quickly either. We're actually going to swap out Catch a Frenzy Plant onto Regidrago. Definitely don't mind that play. The opponent going to fire off another charge move. This time around, it will be the Sludge. They will still need another Sludge to get the KO. So we're now going to fire off the Dragon Energy. And it's clear they don't have an amazing answer to the Regidrago. Otherwise, they would have swapped out at this point. But at this point, we're happy to take a shield advantage, let the Sludge get the KO there, and then we're going to come back in with that Indeedee, probably shield once, and then look to go for a full Extra Sensory farm down. So going to shield here, the opponent is going to full send the Frenzy Plant, meaning we can get the farm down. We come out with 100 energy, so we do just throw immediately, of course. Could have gone for one Extra Sensory here and then thrown up against a 4-turn fast move, but I don't mind that play either. Here we are going to overfarm, which I'm not too keen on though, as the opponent is going to go ahead and boost up their attack stat with a Trailblaze. Ideally, we need them to no shield here, and the opponent is not going to bother shielding the Ampharos. Their final Pokemon is for Alligator. And once again, do they respect the damage from the Energy Ball here? We're full sending it. And no, they let that go through. Now we can come in with the Dondozo. Again, looking like it's wanting to kiss that for Alligator. But we could just go for a full Water Gun farm down. Clearly, they don't have access to Crunch. Otherwise, they would have thrown it. So at this point, we are resisting the charge moves. We commit to the fast move farm down. We get that farm down. And we're able to take that game. So, going into the next battle, we're going to see a Como-O in the lead. So, once again, on paper, a good matchup for us. However, unfortunately, they are going to outpace us to the charges. We are going to bank a move there. I don't mind that play whatsoever. They swap into the Alolan Sandslash. We're going to come in with the Dondozo. They're on Powder Snow, so we are resisting the damage. And you see those Powder Snows, they just the animation looks tiny up against this Dondozo. Like, they are barely above us. But anyways, we are going to no shield once again, as the opponent will be firing off yet another drill run. Still not really dealing that much damage. They swap into Greninja, and we can swap out bank a ton of energy and come in with the Regidrago. They go for Night Slash there, not getting what the hell? Not getting the boost on that first attempt. They're gonna go for another Night Slash. Night Slash, still no boost there. We can no shield once again and now go straight for Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy is gonna be shielded by the opponent, and the opponent already at yet another charge move. We can still afford to no-shield this. The opponent is going to stay in, allow us to reach yet another charge move here. And Dragon Energy gonna grab the final shield from the opponent. At this point, we come back in, and the opponent overfarms, allowing us to reach the Outrage. Outrage gets the KO there. Huge waste of energy on the opponent's end. We come back in with Indeedee, going straight for Psychic. Psychic, not the best charge move there, so it actually does not get the KO, but we can just play the safe here, use the shield. They bait with a Brick Break, which is very interesting. But at this point, even with that debuff to our defense, we should still be able to tank an Ice Punch relatively comfortably there. I honestly don't know if Psychic or Energy Ball is better to go for here. I assume since we do have Stab on the Psychic, it's probably better. But either way, gonna fire off the Psychic. I can't even talk right now. Gonna fire off the Psychic, get the KO, and we can just barely get the fast move farm down up against the Como-O, and we're able to take that game. So, going into the next battle, we're going to see Ampharos in the lead. So, this is going to be a bit of a tricky matchup for us, but we will swap out here, looking to catch presumably a Brutal Swing here, or even a Thunder Punch, much better for us. And now they come in with Heatran. That is a very cool spice to see. We're going to go ahead and, of course, fire off a Dragon Energy. It is resisted damage here, but we can only throw resisted Dragon-type moves anyways. Not running Hyper Beam, and even if we were, that would also be resisted. We're going to shoot as they do overfarm, but they just settle for a Magma Storm, which is also resisted damage. The opponent, again, going for Magma Storm, not dealing too much damage there. We can now go for a second Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy is going to be shielded by the opponent, but we do just narrowly outpace them to yet another charge move. Dragon Energy, number 3, gets the KO there. And let's see, they come back in with the Ampharos, and we are not done yet. We're going to swap back into Indeedee, presuming they don't have access to Brutal Swing, otherwise they would have thrown it earlier. They go for another Thunder Punch, not dealing too much damage there. We can fire off the Psychic. Psychic probably going to grab the final shield from the opponent. No, never mind. They no shield, and they barely hang on, reaching yet another Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch gets the KO there. We can come in with a Regidrago, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Venusaur. So we're actually going to bait with a Breaking Swipe, assuming we grab a shield, but we don't grab the shield, and that is not very good for us whatsoever. Of course, we do debuff their attack stats, so that is something. Dondozo, of course, not going to appreciate the Frenzy Plants, even with a debuff to their attack. We are full sending Outrage. We need this to go unshielded. Outrage, unfortunately shielded. And unfortunately, I just don't think we can win this game here. But Frenzy Plant does not get the KO. Our Switch Clock is coming up soon. And we're able to perfectly swap out, catch a charge move with 1 HP and a Dream. Frenzy Plant gets the KO there. The opponent tries to make a catch of their own, but it backfires. We've got Liquidation already loaded. Is this enough damage here? It's resisted. It doesn't get the KO, but we get the Water Gun farm down. And we're able to just barely take that game. Into the next battle, we're going to see Greninja in the lead. So, of course, not a great matchup for us whatsoever. We're going to swap out into Regidrago, and we are met with a Togekiss. Yeah, there's not a lot we can do here. Honestly, I'd probably go for the Breaking Swipes because, I mean, we're just not going to be able to deal any damage whatsoever, so might as well debuff their attack stat. They full send a Dazzling Gleam, and we do just barely reach another charge move, so I guess we give less farm to them by going for Dragon Energies, and we do get them into the yellow health range, which is quite respectable considering that, of course, was double resisted damage. But anyways, to come back in with Indeedee, they go for another Dazzling Gleam there. They then swap into Skeledirge, and we're coming in straight away with Dondozo. We are going to no shield here. The opponent is going to go ahead and crunch. What the hell? Who even runs crunch on Skeledirge? Anyways, crunch, non-stab, doesn't really deal that much damage there. We can fire off the liquidation. Liquidation, going to grab the first shield from the opponent, and it drops their defense. Again, we can still afford to no shield this, so we will be no shielding. The opponent will be outpacing us to the next charge move, so unfortunately, we will have to use our first shield. Oh, they come in with the Greninja there. I didn't even see that swap out. Honestly, I was just not paying attention. But we swap back into Indeedee. We go and full send an energy ball. Of course, we have to just no shield here. The opponent gonna be taking us out with a Night Slash, but we come back in with Dondozo, and they will outpace us to yet another charge attack. Things are looking very tricky for us, but they swap back into Togekiss. We do overfarm just a little bit here. Gonna go for that liquidation. Liquidation gets the KO there. They come back in with Greninja, and Dondozo are just barely not able to reach the charge move. The opponent goes for Night Slash. It gets the KO, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But into the next battle, another Dark type in the lead, and very tricky for us as we see a Crocodile, and again met with a Togekiss, this time a Charmed Togekiss, but we are running Hyper Beam this time around. That is huge for us. Hyper Beam does big damage. Unfortunately, not enough to flip this match up, but actually, we can reach a last-second Dragon Energy. That is huge for us. Dragon Energy ends up grabbing a shield advantage. Honestly, best case scenario for us there. At this point, we're going to come in with Indeedee. We are just going to no shield, and they go for Aura Sphere. So likely on Aura Sphere and Psyshock, both of which are going to be resisted. They go for Aura Sphere once again, fine with us. At this point, we should be swapping out, but no, we're actually going to stay in because we can reach an Energy Ball before they farm us down. They don't respect it, and we get the Water Gun Snipe, and they do have Empoleon in the back, which is quite tricky for us since, of course, they are going to resist everything we can possibly throw, but we've got a one-turn fast move in Water Gun, so it is going to add up over time. These liquidations, they're not really going to deal too much damage, but likewise, even their Drill Pegs aren't going to do much damage up against Dondozo, and you see we have now got them into the yellow health range already. So we're going to no-shield once again. Don't really need to start shielding yet because they are just never going to be able to go for a Metal Sound farm down. At this point, no, we're still not going to bother shielding. Wow, that is very ballsy. Is that going to come back and bite us in the butt here? We're going to go for the liquidation. Liquidation grabs the final shield. And now it looks like we're still going to be fine here as we did actually get a debuff to their defense. Liquidation gets the KO there. And again, another very nice 2-shield flex. Into next battle, we're going to see Indeedee into Gengar. So this is probably a matchup where we look to stay in here because these extra sentries are going to deal decent damage. They are on Hex there, it looks like, which is kind of interesting. They then swap out into a second Pokemon, also weak to the Psychic typing. So Psychic grabs the shield there. We are going to no shield. Are they going to full send a Clanging Scales? Nope, they go for an upper hand bait there. That's huge for us. Now we can go for Psychic number 2. Psychic, surely they're not going to double shield. Never mind, they are going to double shield. So at this point, the opponent committing to a farm down. They get the full farm down. That is quite tricky for us. They have a lot of energy, so we're just going to soak up the damage on the Dondozo here. The opponent going to go for another upper hand. Not really doing much damage, but they do drop our defense. This time they full send Clanging Scales, dealing huge damage, but now we snipe with the Regidrago. Regidrago should still be fine up against this Gengar. The opponent does have quite a lot of energy, so we will just shield, respect the damage, and they go for a Drain Punch there, boosting up their defense. That is a really interesting play. Drain Punch, an awful charge move, but Dragon Energy still gonna get the KO anyways, and their final Pokemon is going to be Feraligatr. So at this point, we should be looking fine here. We can go for the Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy does huge damage. We then swap, we catch the charge move, and I guess we won that game there. I don't really know what happened there. But anyways, into the next battle, we're going to see Ampharos in the lead. So once again, slightly awkward matchup for us, but we will stay in initially, and we're going to swap once again, able to catch the charge move. The opponent is going to this time go for a Brutal Swing. Now they come in with an Obstagoon, a Pokemon honestly I have not seen in the Go Battle League in quite a while, and obviously not very good for our Indeedee, but good to see it here, or at least okay to see it here. We are going to go ahead and fire off a Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy does big damage there, and we can reach another one before they do get to the next Night Slash. So Dragon Energy number 2 gets the KO there. The opponent comes back in with the Ampharos, and we can reach yet another Dragon Energy before they fully farm us down. Dragon Energy does grab a shield there, but they do get a huge farm down. And we've got 2 Pokemon that don't really appreciate the energy from this Ampharos. So, gonna no shield as they go for a brutal swing. They're at back-to-back already, so we will obviously respect the damage this time around as they go for another brutal swing. But they swap into Victini. We can come in with a Dondozo. And, of course, we should be no-shielding this first charge move. Victini did gain access to Psyshock this season. However, they go for a Psychic, which does cost more energy. We're now going to fire off the Liquidation. Liquidation doesn't quite get the KO, but it does get the full farm down. And we should be looking fine here. We can reach a Liquidation if the opponent commits to a full farm down. We do have a move on Indeedee, and we still have a shield in play. But if they throw here, this is also going to be fine for us. Brutal Swing. Doesn't actually get the KO there, so we swap out. And I don't know why we overfarm. It doesn't really make a difference here. We can fire off the Psychic. We go for an undercharge. Psychic still gets the KO. And we're able to take that game. Into next battle, I'm going to see Indeedee into Haxorus. So the spice is very, very nice here from the opponent as they are going to lead with Haxorus. Probably going to be on Night Slash as the charge move, so we're going to no shield. And it is a Night Slash that does big damage there, super effective. And we overfarm, we throw on CMP, which of course we definitely lose up against the Haxorus. Definitely not ideal for us, but going to fire off the Psychic here. Psychic, going to be shielded. We now swap into our own Dragon type, dealing huge damage with the Dragon Breaths. We are definitely going to no-shield this, as this is just going to be yet another Night Slash. The opponent then comes in with the Ampharos. So again, this is fine with us. This is definitely where we want to see it. We go for Dragon Energy, dealing huge damage in the process. And we probably tank a Brutal Swing here, so not going to bother shielding. The opponent goes for Brutal Swing. We do tank that pretty comfortably as well. We fire off another Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy gets the KO there. And they're going to come in with their final Pokemon, a Swampert, and unfortunately just barely missing out on reaching another charge move. But Dondozo is going to do a very nice job of just sponging up the damage here. The opponent fires off Sludge, really not doing much damage at all. They can go for another one. We don't really care. We don't need to shield here. The opponent goes for Sludge, number 2. They swap back into Haxorus, and we can get the full farm down there. And of course, we could have gone for Energy Ball there and just gone for a full one-shot, but we go for Psychic. Whoa, it's not Psychic. Psychic there is actually no shielded. So the opponent, of course, they would have been one shot. But again, we're not going to bother shielding, as Dondozo just doesn't need to bother there. We get the full farm down, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, I see Shadow Golurk in the lead. So once again, Indeedee not having the best lead matchups here. Very polarizing, either really good leads or quite bad ones. We are going to swap into Regidrago, but you can see like a lot of the lost leads, we have at least got Energy Ball full coverage, which will be very nice. But either way, they're going to stay in with that Shadow Golurk. We go for Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy going to be shielded. And they do swap out. They make a nice catch there, but they catch onto Blastoise. So Dragon Energy going to hit for neutral damage. They do sponge that very comfortably though. So we're actually going to come in with the Dondozo. Now, I'm not really sure about this just because, of course, I mean, we can't really deal much damage against the Blastoise. We can maybe look to get a lot of farm before we throw any charge moves, which maybe is the play here. So I guess I'm going to no-shield once again as they bait with a second Hydro Cannon. Absolutely fine with us. We're actually going to bait with a Liquidation of our own. So we go for Liquidation. Liquidation, gotta be no-shielded. And again, this is just going to be another Hydro Cannon. So we are going to no-shield. And at this point, we probably can just go for a full Water Gun farm down. And we do just barely get it. So they come in with their final Pokemon, a Shadow Typhlosion, and Dondozo is looking to be great here. We can go for the Surf. Surf is going to grab the shield. We then swap at the same time as the opponent. We're going to no-shield. We should be able to tank a Shadow Punch. Wait, they undercharged that, I guess. And we are going to see another Shadow Punch coming through. Of course, Shadow Punch. Wait, what? Oh, Indeedee is... I didn't even realize this Pokemon is a Psychic and Normal type Pokemon. I did not realize that the entire time. That is crazy. All right, well, anyways, we go for Energy Ball there. Wow, okay, right. I have literally... We are 17 minutes into the battles, and I've only just realized this Pokemon is a Psychic and Normal type Pokemon. That's how much, like, you don't see this Pokemon being played. I didn't even know it's typing. But anyways, we should be fine here. We can just shield up the Thunder Punch, go for the Water Gun farm down, and we're able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.